All right, DB here with the Tour Junkies to give you everything you need to know about TPC Twin Cities, the host golf course of the 3M Open, and nothing that you don't need to know. We're throwing out all the waste. I'm only giving you the information that I think will help you come up with the best strategy to pick the best players for DFS, or if you're betting, doing traditional golf bets, whatever. This is going to help you out. You got to understand the golf course first. And coming up, I've got a player quote that's going to probably give you some freedom to pivot off some of the chalkier names, maybe in DFS, and probably throw a few units on a long shot. Let's talk about the 3M Open thus far. It's a relatively new golf tournament hosted at TPC Twin Cities in Blaine, Minnesota. It's a par 71, plays about 7,400 yards. You've got three par fives, four par threes on the property. And it's been won by a few different guys, like different skill sets, like Cam Champ, Matt Wolf, both hit it a long way. Michael Thompson, notorious like dink and dunker precision iron player, but got really hot with a putter and he won. We've had all three of those guys actually won this event at 125 to 1 or longer. So we've also had some really long odds come out of the 3M Open in terms of, in terms of big balls betting card guys, right? Like guys that you would find on my betting card, some long shot outrights. Now, I'm going to show you the scorecard. We're going to go over some key stats and trends that I've uncovered, doing some research on the golf course, some player quotes, and then at the end, I'm going to give you my key stats that I think are important when you start making your models, building out who it is you think you want to pick. But before I get into that, if you could drop a comment here on the YouTube channel if you're watching, your favorite point of emphasis or slide or data point from these course breakdown videos that I've been doing. I'm really only doing them on golf courses that we see frequently year after year on the PGA Tour. So we have a lot of data on, and hopefully they can be used in the coming year or two before the data maybe gets stale and we need to refresh it. But what are your favorite things that you're getting out of these? Or what's something that I'm missing? Drop that in the comment. Give me a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not already. But drop that comment. Let me know what you'd like to see more of. I did not include the track hacks or the horses for courses slide here, just because I think with only 3 years of data, there was only a handful of guys that have played it every 3 years and made the cut. So they have 12 rounds under their belt. Usually 12 rounds is the minimum I like to look at for courses like that to kind of give you those slides at the end. I didn't include that any on this video just because we've only got a few years of data. So we'll get that maybe the next year. All right, let's talk about the golf course. I'm going to show you the scorecard here. Like I mentioned, par 71, a little over 7,400 yards. You've got the three par fives, two on the back, one on the front. This golf course does have a lot of flexibility in terms of the yardage. They can move these tees around quite a bit, so it's something to pay attention to. It's tipped out at 7,400 yards, but it doesn't necessarily play that way. Every single round, so it can definitely play shorter, and that's something I mentioned here. It's an Arnold Palmer design. It's very gettable, as with most TPC courses, right? We've seen TPC golf courses on the PGA Tour. They want the birdies, they want the eagles, they want the scoring. That's just how they want it. And they do have that tee box flexibility. The fairways are pretty generous in terms of width, but there are a fair amount of water hazards that come in play on probably, 14 or 15 holes, kind of depending on the player, depending on wind and how the course is set up, right? A wide range of ball striking skill sets plus a hot putter can certainly lead to success here. And the greens are plenty big enough. I think they average around 6,500 square feet. They run pretty quick, though, around a 12 on the stimp, and the surfaces are pure bent grass. And most players talk about how, at least in the first few years of this competition, these bent grass greens roll extremely pure and true, which is I love that. Bent grass is one of my favorite surfaces to putt on. I absolutely love that. All right, let me think if there's anything else before we get into some key stats and trends. So I will say, like, recent form for the past few champions hasn't necessarily been required. I think for Cameron Champ, he had an 11th at the John Deere the week before. So he definitely, or, the tournament before. So definitely that was nice. But before that, he had two missed cuts. Michael Thompson had an 8th place way back at the Heritage, but then he had like some pretty bad finishes. I think a 48th was maybe his best finish prior to after the Heritage and prior to winning the 3M Open. And Matt Wolf had a miscut, and a 50th before he won. He was also a rookie on the PGA Tour as his first victory. You did have guys like Bryson DeChambeau, Scott Piercy, Lucas Glover, and Matt Wolf all shot course record tying 62s in 2019. So if you look at those guys, Bryson Matt Wolff, both bombers. And this was before Bryson's transformation. So I guess he wasn't really a super long hitter, but just known ball strikers. There's Lucas Glover, who's a terrible putter, got hot, hit it close. This is kind of a dart throwing competition. Those are the four guys that hold the course record. And in 2021, it was the first time they played it immediately after the Open Championship, which is what they are doing for 2022 as well. All right, let's look at some other key stats I think are important to know. Only 10 other courses on the PGA Tour have played easier since 2015 than TPC Twin Cities. Pretty easy golf course. Like I said, TPC, dart throwing competition, birdie fest. There's really no defense to this golf course other than the water. It also is in the top 10 highest greens in regulation percentage at 74.3% on average. And that's of all courses played on the PGA Tour since 2015. So everybody's hitting greens at a really high clip here. Something to take note of as we start to look at our key stats here in just a minute. TPC Twin Cities falls in the top 10 easiest of all regular tour stops since 2015 in fairway hit percentage at 69.7% on average. I talked about the average fairway width is about 36 yards. That's a little bit wider than average on tour. But here's something interesting. It is in the top 10 in terms of missed fairway penalty. And that's usually because the rough is can be kind of nasty, but there's also these water hazards. So, the water hazards do play a factor. And if you look in this next slide, TPC Twin Cities falls in the top 10 of all regular tour stops since 2015 in average driving distance at 292 on average. So bombs away to, that's top 10 regular tour stops. So this doesn't include major championships, but regular tour stops. This tends to be a place where guys hit driver, right, and they let it go. But it is in the top 10 highest penalty stroke average on the PGA Tour since 2015. So those things right there about how the missed fairway penalties, the top 10 in highest penalty stroke average, what that tells us is you have room out here, right? You have room. Guys are going to rip driver. You have room to hit the driver. You just can't be too far off the mark. If you're blowing it too far off the mark, if you're too wild with the driver, you will pay a heavy price because of the water and the water hazards. That's where the penalty strokes come in play. Again, that's kind of an indicator to one of these key stats I'm going to tell you about here at the end of the video. So hang tight. For now, let's look at a player quote that I do think is essential and is going to free you up to maybe pivot off some chalk in DFS or take a gamble with some long shots, outrights, top 20s, that kind of thing. Before I do that, remember, drop a comment if you will, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment what you like out of these course breakdown videos and what you think I'm missing. Again, I'm trying to keep these short and only info that's really going to help you and leave out a bunch of the fluff because I see a lot of course breakdowns written and on video, and there's just too much fluff. There's data that you don't need to look at. There's information that's just all noise and no signal. There's information that doesn't correlate to any success in terms of handicapping. And it's just a lot of frivolous, I'm smart, I'm a nerd kind of talk. And it just doesn't, you don't need all that stuff. This is the easy stuff, right? I'm trying to keep all that business, all that nerdy business out of it. All right. Player quote. And I don't know why I'm a dingbat and I copied the same player quote twice. I don't know what I was doing, but this is from Michael Thompson. You can read the top one or the bottom one. How about that? Winner in 2021, Michael Thompson says, quote, I don't think it suits a particular type of player. I think that's what makes this tournament great is that anybody in the field has a chance to win, whether you're a long hitter or a short hitter. We tend to see that at TPC courses anyway. A great putter or a great iron player, everybody can play well, and hopefully that will lead to a bunched leaderboard come Sunday afternoon. What this means is it's a birdie fest, and in a birdie fest, we tend to see like it just opens up the field anyway. And then the golf course and TPC tracks in and of themselves do the same thing. It's just a reason to say don't be afraid to fade some of the chalk, right? You're always welcome to play some chalk in DFS, but don't play too much of it. You're also welcome to fade it all if you want. If you want to be real aggressive and you're a player that's perfectly fine with really high peak weeks and weeks where you lose everything, you could do that too. And in outright betting and in top 20 betting and in top 10, whatever, like don't be afraid to take a shot on a flyer because as we see with Michael Thompson, as we see with a first time winner like Matthew Wolff, it can happen. And you have these high variance events where there's just no perfect recipe and anything can click. For guys like Matt Wolff and Cam Champ, they bludgeoned the golf course to death off the tee, and the ball striking was tremendous. For a guy like Michael Thompson, the iron play was pretty good. The off the tee play was not. and he got really hot with a putter. So all that can happen. So keep that in mind when you're narrowing down your player pool, when you're handicapping this golf tournament. Keep that in mind. It can really play. Don't eliminate any player type based on lack of distance or lack of putting ability or whatever. I mean, Lucas Glover, has a tie for the course record here at 62. Terrible putter. Matt Wolff is not a great putter. Okay. All right. Let's move on. My key stats, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee, always key stats. Good drives gained is one that I want to kind of bring your attention to. Going back to that idea that the fairways are generous, but if you miss them by too much, you're going to pay a hefty price. Good drives gained is that proprietary Fantasy National stat. We've been using Fantasy National for a long time. You can go to fantasynational.com/TJ, use promo code TJ, and you get 20% off any membership. But that's a proprietary stat over there that says, hey, if you hit or miss a fairway, but you still hit the green in regulation, that's a good drive gained. So, typically that would mean a player wouldn't put himself in a really horrible position or miss it by too much. They were still able to get on the green. I think that's something you could look at this week. All right, so that's off the tee. Also, opportunities gained. You're going to have to make a lot of birdies. You're going to see I've got a lot of potential stats in here that are based on scoring. Opportunities gained is another proprietary stat only found at Fantasy National that measures how many times a player in under regulation or regulation hits it on the green within 15 feet or less. In other words, that's a real scoring opportunity to make a putt, make an eagle or a birdie, and advance on the field. Opportunities gained is a great stat to use for easy golf courses. Strokes gained easy courses, right? Like you could kind of look at how well guys perform on easy tracks. I would zoom out and look at a big sample size on that. But let's check that. Recent form, we're always going to look at it. We're going to weigh it somehow, but it's dynamic from week to week. This is one of those events where I think recent form, course history, you can kind of lower the weight on it a little bit because there is so much variance here. Long-term, short-term putting, you can look at bent grass putting as well if you like. This is pure bent grass. Birdie or better gain, DraftKings points gained, those are both scoring stats. Obviously, you're going to need a lot of that for the 3M Open being a scoring fest. So I think that's what we're looking for. Okay, but the big theme for the 3M Open as of now, with the field strength that they tend to gather, with the TPC and the scoring setup that the PGA Tour loves, embrace the variance is probably the key. Okay, embrace the variance, hit some long shots. Let's make some green screens and let's bend over our bookies. Okay, let's make the bookies pay. Take them to Pound Town and be the mayor. Okay, be the mayor of Pound Town. Make your bookie pay. That's it. I'm DB. Course breakdown, everything you need to know. TPC Twin Cities in the 3M Open. Have a week. See ya.